Alright, and we've just finished talking about Custodes, but another one of my armies are in today's release of indexes, and that is the Grey Knights. Not gonna go as in-depth as I did in my Custodes video, by the way. If you haven't watched that, go check it out after you're done with this one. But they are still an army I play, I own. I don't have that much Grey Knights. I think I have like the equivalent of 2300 points in 9th edition. But it's mostly the same unit, because in 9th edition, well, let's be honest, you really had 3 units to choose from. Being your Grandmaster Dread Knight, your normal Dread Knights, your Interceptors, and your Strike Marines. That was kind of all you used in 9th edition. I do also have some Terminators, but I don't own a lot of Grey Knights, and I don't think I'm going to be playing them that much, but I do have them, so let's go through their rules and see what they are up to. Now, of course, their army rule is basically at the end of your opponent's turn, as long as you're not in engagement range. You can pick up to 3 units and then redeploy them in your reinforcement step. So it's not redeploy, it's take them away, put them in deep strike, and then they come down. So they cannot move after you put them down and all that shenanigans, but it's still really good, very powerful, repositioning up to 3 units every single battle round. The reason it's 3 units is because normal games are strike force battles, those are 2000 points. But it does scale depending on the size of the game, which is probably fine. I don't really play anything other than 2000 points, or at least I don't play any games that's not Strike Force rules. So it doesn't impact me, but if you're playing the new Combat Patrol game mode, then of course, you know, it's a good thing they made the rules for it. But that's the army rule, pretty solid. Their detachment rule is Teleport Shunt, which basically just means that all your units, infantry, vehicles, anything, as long as it has the Deep Strike ability, when they just advance 6 inches automatically, and they have Fly. Now, Fly have been severely nerfed in 10th edition. You can no longer just go through buildings, but it does allow you to move over enemy units, and there's some things about going over terrain, but that rule doesn't quite work because it says only when you start or end your movement on top of that terrain can you measure diagonally. In short, the whole Fly keyword is kinda pointless depending on how terrain layouts look like. If it's like 9th edition where it's a bunch of L ruins, then Fly doesn't do anything outside of letting you move over enemy units. Stratagems, we have Radiant Strike. In the fight phase, 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, melee weapons equipped by models in your unit with the Psychic ability also have Devastating Wounds ability. That is obviously really good because all melee weapons for Grey Knights are Psychic. So this is basically just 2 CP, pick a melee unit, it has Devastating Wounds. Then there is Death from the Warp. You use this in your movement phase and you pick 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit that advanced or came in with Deep Strike or Teleport Assault this turn. Until the end of the phase, ranged weapons equipped by models in your unit have the Assault ability, and each time a model in your unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. So a slight mistake here by GW. You use this in your movement phase, and the stratagem lasts until the end of the phase, which means that until the end of your movement phase, where you don't shoot your guns have assault and reroll 1s. This is obviously just a typo or a missed, mistake, sentence writing, whatever. It's quite clear how this is supposed to work, but like, GW, come on now. Prognosticated Arrival in your movement phase, 1 Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army that has arrived in Deep Strike or from Teleport Assault. Your unit can be set up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches away, but you're then not allowed to declare a charge. This is obviously super powerful for coming in and potentially stealing away objectives, but depending on how some of these psychic powers look like, I haven't looked at any of the datasheets by the way, depending on how some of the new psychic powers and, well, psychic shooting looks like, then this also means that you basically have free reign to shoot against anything you want. Even if they have Lone Operative, they're gonna have a hard time screening you because you can come within 3 inches. So that's a pretty solid stratagem right there. And it's also just 1 CP. Yeah, pretty good. Then there is Haloed in Soulfire. This is also in your movement phase, 1 Grey Knight Psyker that arrived with Deep Strike or the Teleport Assault ability. Until the start of your next movement phase, your unit cannot be targeted by ranged attacks unless the attacking model is within 12. Just as I was saying, talking about how Prognosticated Arrival helps you against Lone Operative, there's also the option of giving yourself Lone Operative when you arrive from Deep Strike. So in theory, this one is quite expensive and who knows how useful it will be. But you could use Prognosticated Arrival, land within 3 inches of an objective, where there's something, just something that's not scary. Let's just say Puckwalkers, I don't know, something like that. And then you can combo that with Haloed in Soulfire. So even if you landed inside the opponent's, let's just say, deployment zone on one of their objectives, even if they have their entire army just ready to gun you down on the other end of their deployment zone, they just can't do it. You're outside of 12, suckers. You can't hit me. Now that is free CP and requires a lot of different things going right, but it is an option. Then there's the Mists of Deimos stratagem. Your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fall back. One Grey Knight Psycho unit that's within... This is going to be move 6, right? Yeah, so... okay. So, enemy unit that ends within 9 inches of that one unit you targeted, it can either make a 6-inch normal move, or you can pick it up and put it in Deep Strike. No, wait, it's not Deep Strike. It's Strategic Reserves. Those are different. There's more restrictions on Strategic Reserves. You have to be within 6 inches of the board edge and other things. But that's still, that's pretty cool. I mean, you can walk 6 away to make sure the charge is either impossible or harder, or you can just completely remove the option at all by putting them into a Strategic Reserve. Okay, that's pretty dope. And then there is True Silver Armor, and I've just read through it, but basically it's Armor of Contempt, which is obviously a really good stratagem, and it's even better because Grey Knights supposedly have a 2-up armor save army-wide. Or at least on most of their units. They've become more tough. That's one of the preview things we saw, was that they talked about Grey Knights being more tough than the average Marine, and that's represented by a 2-up save. A 2-up save with -1 AP because of Armor of Contempt is good. Very good. Very solid. Alright, now we have the enhancements. First to the fray. Grey Knight's model with the Deep Strike ability only. The bearer's unit must start the battle in reserves, but neither it nor any transports it is embarked within is counted towards any limits this mission places on the number of strategic reserve units you can have. That unit can be set up using its Deep Strike ability in the reinforcement step of your first, second, or third movement phase, regardless of any mission rules. Turn 1 Deep Strike on 1 unit. Probably pretty good. Yeah. Normally, Space Marines would have to pay a tax for this in the form of a drop pod, and they would also have to adhere to any restrictions regarding what units could be put into that drop pod. But for Grey Knights, you just take whatever unit you want, give them this ability, and they have to start in Deep Strike, but they can come down turn 1. I am very excited to see how Psychic Shooting is for Grey Knights, as well as they have any tricks to make the charges easier, because a 9-inch charge from Deep Strike is always a little bit iffy. But anything that can help either be like good shooting or good charges will make this enhancement so much more powerful. Sigil of Exigence. This is the exact same as 9th edition, baby. Basically, whenever the bearer is targeted by a ranged attack, they can just pew teleport somewhere else on the map. Now, one important thing here is that it affects the bearer's unit. So the entire unit gets to teleport, not just the bearer's unit. Normally, you would only ever use this on your Nemesis Dread Knights because it was kind of a waste on anything else. But now, you can technically put it on Terminators, Strike Squads, Purifiers, whatever you want. They can just, boop, nope, I'm gone. Then there is the Domina Liba Demonica. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll, and if that target a demon unit, add 1 to the damage characteristic as well. That's fine, +1 to wound. Honestly, pretty decent. If Grey Knights are anything like 9th edition, they don't have a ton of anti-vehicle shooting. So just having a unit with +1 to wound makes it a lot easier to deal some damage to those tougher vehicles and monsters. And then they get +1 damage against demons, which is, well, it's good. But that's mostly because Grey Knights is supposed to be the anti-demon faction, and they just, you know, threw something in there to make it like that. And then there's the Inescapable Wrath, which is +1 to charge rolls made for the bearer. Is that it? That's it. That seems... Feel like there's supposed to be some more text here. I mean, +1 to charge is fine, but okay. Right. That's weird. Okay, so so you can pick free enhancements in any army list you build. As far as we know, we don't know if they are points costed or if they are just pick 3 out of 4. But, well, quick analysis shows that this is kind of lame. This is sometimes good, but mostly it's fine. This is good, and this is also pretty good. So I'll probably pick these 3 and then never pick this one. Alright, time to look at some data sheets. We have Kaldor Drago, Supreme Grand Master of the Grey Knights. Looks like he has the exact same profile as he did in 9th edition. He might have had 6 wounds and not 7. I'm not entirely sure about that one. He still has his Stormbolter. Funny enough, he does not have his Mastercrafted Stormbolter anymore. That's okay. And then he has his Psychic Shooting attack, which is Scourging. Anti-Demon 2+, ignores cover, 18-inch range, 3 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2. That is just, you know what, that's just like a solid, shoot this into anything and it'll be okay. It'll not do a ton against monsters and vehicles, but it can do a little bit of damage. Pretty good against into free up armor save to wound models. And you know, it's a bit overkill on 1 wound models, but it's pretty much guaranteed to kill 3 of them. So yeah, that's a fairly fine psychic attack. Nothing amazing, just it's fine. Then there is the Titan Sword, also anti-demon 2+. 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 8, AP 4, damage 3. I actually think that's the exact same profile as it was in 9th edition. Which is a good thing, because most melee weapons have gone down in both damage and AP. Strength 8 obviously not as good as it used to be, because vehicles are tougher. But he can fight any infantry in the game and probably kill a few models. Yep, seems fairly solid. He is a leader, so he can join a unit, and then his abilities. The first one is Untouchable Purity. While this model is leading a unit, models in that unit have Feel No Pain 4+ against mortal wounds. Solid, solid. A lot of devastating wounds in the game, so having a 4+ against mortals is good. And there is One with the Warp. Once per battle, when this model's unit declares a charge in the same turn, it was set up as reinforcements using the Deep Strike ability, add 3 to the charge roll. Oh boy, okay, +3 to charge from Deep Strike, so all of a sudden you have a 6-inch charge? That is amazing. Oh wow, okay, that's really good. Unfortunately, Drago cannot take any enhancement because he is an epic hero, otherwise you could turn 1 Deep Strike him and then have a 6-inch charge. That would be pretty crazy. But overall, it looks pretty good. He does have a 4+ invuln now instead of a 3+ invuln, so he's a slightly less tough. He is T5 though now because he is in Terminator armor, so overall he looks mostly to be the same stat-wise and attack-wise that he was in 9th edition, but damn, it's only once per battle, of course. But still, +3 to the charge roll. What units can he join? Probably Terminators? Yeah, Terminators and Paladins, makes sense. Okay, very solid start to this index. Then we have Grandmaster Voldus, and this guy, I have him. I used him as a Terminator captain because in 9th edition, you had to take a specific sub-faction to even use this guy, and that sub-faction was kind of, well, bad. But now, we don't have sub-factions anymore, so you can just include him. He has a Terminator stat line, he has 1 less wound than Drago. He does, but I guess that's because Drago's, you know, super special, supreme Grandmaster guy. His only ranged weapon is the Stormbolter, so he doesn't get a psychic weapon. And then he has his special Thunderhammer, which is 5 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 3, AP 2, damage 3. So it's +1 to hit for a normal Thunderhammer. Wait, a Thunderhammer's on 4s? I forget. In any case, it hits better than a normal Thunderhammer. It has the same strength. I think it has +1 AP, and then it has +1 damage. But it doesn't have devastating wounds like normal Thunderhammers do. So that's fine. It's okay. It's decent. Then we have Sanctuary. While this model is leading a unit, each time an attack targets that unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Very solid. And then we have Hammer of Flame. Each time this model's unit is selected to fight, you can select 1 enemy unit within engagement range of this model unit and roll 1d6. Adding to the result if the unit has the demon keyword on a 4 to 5, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, the enemy suffers d3 plus 3. Okay, I mean 4+ to deal d3 mortals is fine. Yeah, Voldus not looking super spicy, but at least you can use him now. You couldn't use him before. It's a cool model. But yeah, nothing amazing. Then we have just the Grandmaster on foot. He has the same weapons as any other Grey Knights. He probably gets some more attacks. That's it. Doesn't have a psychic attack either. In shooting, Might of Purity is while this model is leading a unit, you can ignore any or all modifiers to characteristics of that model, excluding saving throws. Wow, Grandmasters just have Trajan Valoris ability. And then once per turn, yeah, you can use we've seen this before on Captain models. You just get a free stratagem, and you can use the same stratagem twice in the same phase. Okay, yep, looks fine. Grandmasters were never really used in 9th edition, but now they can join units, it might be fine. Oh, I forgot to check, he can join, yeah, Terminators, because he's also in Terminator armor. The Grandmaster is also in Terminator armor, so you can also just join Terminators. Then there is the Grandmaster in Nemesis Dread Knight. We already saw him in the preview. This guy is fairly nerfed. The heavy Psy Cannon is down in ballistic skill, but it's up in both strength and damage. I think it used to be AP 2 as well. So it lost an AP, but gained a point of damage, but also hitting on 3s rather than 2s. Gatling Silencer is the same, I believe. And the Heavy Incinerator is also the same, I believe. In Melee, they've also seen quite a bit of a shift in profiles as well as a nerf overall. He's hitting on 3s on everything now, except for the hammer, which is 4s. The hammer used to be D3 plus 3 damage, it's D6 plus 1 now, that's fine. The Nemesis Greatsword was always D6 on the strike profile, but the sweep profile used to be 2, but now it's just 1. Strength 10, AP 2 is fine into Dreadnoughts. Not very good into anything tougher than that. For that, you want to take the Demon Greathammer, which honestly, I'm kinda, with the new sweep profile not being damage 2 anymore, I would be kinda tempted to just put Great Hammers on my Dreadknights, and then have the Gatling and Side Cannon for any, like, anti-infantry shooting. You are hitting on 4s, which kinda sucks, but yeah, I don't know. Hitting on 4s is made up for by having the Surge of Wrath ability, which is once per battle round in the fight phase, one model can use this ability, and when it does so, you can reroll the hit roll and the wound roll and the damage roll against monsters and vehicles. And then I think it works out having a 4-up weapon skill even when you're rerolling everything, and you reroll the damage. So yeah, honestly, I have painted up all my extra bits for the Dreadknights. Fairly certain I'm just gonna put a Gatling Silencer, a Heavy Side Cannon, and a Great Hammer on all of them. That way I have some anti-tank shooting with the Heavy Side Cannon, some anti-infantry shooting with the Silencer, and very decent melee against monsters and vehicles, combined with the Surge of Wrath ability. You can also target him with a stratagem, and when you do so, it only costs 1 CP, even if the stratagem cost is higher. So the 2 CP strats were, let's check it out real quick, it was Halo and Soulfire, which is the Lone Operative ability, and the Radiant Strike, which is give devastating wounds on basically all your weapons, because I believe the Side Cannon and Heavy Silencer is also psychic weapons. Yeah, so for 1 CP, devastating wounds on all your weapons in any phase, and Lone Operative for 1 CP. You're probably going to need that because he cannot join any units. He's a big Dread Knight, obviously. Oh, his stats is 8-inch movement. I think that's the same as now. T8, that's an improvement. He was T6 before. 2-up save is the same. 13 wounds is also the same as before. And then a 4-up invulnerable save. So mostly the same as he was in 9th edition stat-wise. Yeah, I don't think he's bad at all. Also, as far as we know, you can take as many Grandmasters and Dread Knights as you want, because there's no restrictions on it anymore. All restrictions that had to do with certain characters were in your codex. So now we have the restriction of epic heroes not being able to be taken multiple times, but there's nothing saying you cannot take multiple Space Marine captains or Grandmasters and Dread Knights. So assuming this is the case, you can take as many Grandmasters as you want. Now he's probably going to be a bit more expensive points-wise than the normal Dread Knight. That's a whole other talk. We'll see that on Friday if the leaks are correct. But I think he's looking fairly solid. He doesn't have any psychic powers, like psychic shooting attacks or anything. But I suppose this is supposed to represent his psychic power. And if he weren't a Psyker unit, he would only have this ability. That's hard to know because Space Marines also just get 2 abilities on their captains. So I'm not completely sold on this whole psychic phase is gone, but you're gonna get compensated for it. We'll have to wait and see. Alright, so next up is Castellan Crow, a very cool model, but he just never really fit in with the Grey Knights playstyle in 9th edition. He only really ever did something in melee, and Grey Knights could do melee, but they just had a hard time like getting anywhere into melee without dying, and then also holding objectives and doing their secondaries. That's a whole different thing now, because 10th edition works very differently, so Castellan Crow might have a time to shine now. He is a leader. I'm going to go ahead and guess he can join Purifiers, because he is the leader of Purifiers. He might also be able to join Strike Squads and other things. And turns out, it's just Purifiers. Okay. 6-inch movement, T4, 2-up save. As I said, all Grey Knights looks like they have a 2-up save now. 5 wounds, and a 4-up invulnerable save. He does have a ranged psychic attack, which is Purifying Flame. This has already been previewed. However, his Purifying Flame seems to be better. He gets 3 shots at 2, 4, 1, 1. With anti-infantry and ignores cover. I believe the Purifiers just get 1 attack at 2, 4, 1, 1. Or sorry, 3, 4, 1, 1. So a slightly better one for him. Makes sense, he is the leader. I don't want to update my drivers right now, GeForce. And then he has the Stormbolter and Black Blade of Antwia, which is devastating wounds and precision, so he can snipe out some characters. 5 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, 2, 2. The thing that Castellan Crow could do in 9th edition was slap the ever-loving shit out of anything in melee. Because I believe it was it 6s to hit or was it 6s to wound? Was just 2 mortal wounds in addition. Now it's devastating wounds, so you don't get it in addition, but it becomes mortal wounds instead. A slight nerf, it's probably fine. His ability is, while this model is leading a unit, add 1 to the attack characteristic of that unit's Purifying Flames. That could potentially be some serious DACA coming in within a 3-inch deep strike if you use the stratagem. Okay, interesting. And then once per turn, first time a saving throw is failed for this model, not the unit, this model, change the damage characteristic of that attack to 0. That's fine. If you're getting hit by some precision attacks, then you can just have a better chance of surviving. Brother Captain Stern. This guy was so weird in 9th edition. The thing he could do in 9th edition was he could reroll, what was it, like a hit, a wound, or a saving throw. But if you did that, then the opponent got 1 free CP reroll, so they could use it for a charge, for leadership, whatever it was. But hopefully that's gone now. He's in Terminator armor, so he has a Terminator stat profile. He's got a Stormbolter and a Nemesis Force Sword. That's weird because, what, huh? The reason I'm saying that's weird is because, well, it's just called Nemesis Force Weapons now. But his is specifically a Nemesis Force Sword. Okay, whatever. His abilities. Exemplar of the Silvered Host. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack on a critical wound, the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition. I think this is literally the only time we've seen this in 10th edition, that you can deal mortals in addition. Most things have just gotten critical wounds, or sorry, devastating wounds. But this one is in addition. Okay, interesting. Then we have Strands of Fate. The first time this model is destroyed will 1d6, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so he comes back on a 2-up. He's lost a weird reroll dice, but then your opponent can also reload dice. That's fine. Who cares? He can probably join Terminators. Yup, got it. Terminators and Paladins. The Brother Captain is basically a lieutenant in Grey Knights. It's a bit weird. So in normal Space Marines, you have the captain and then lieutenants and then sergeants. In Grey Knights, you have the Supreme Grandmaster, who is the Chapter Master. Then you have the Grandmaster, who has like, well, a company. And then you have the Captain, which is still the captain of the company, but he's more like of a day-to-day guy, whereas the Grandmaster is, you know, the wider picture guy. It's some force organization shenanigans. It doesn't really matter. His weapons, we've seen those. Abilities, Empiric Amplification. While this model is leading a unit, psychic weapons have sustained hits 1. Grey Knights basically have psychic weapons across the board, so that's pretty good. And then each time this model makes an attack with a psychic weapon, you can reroll the wound roll. So any attacks that it's not the Stormbolter, you can reroll the wound roll. Alright, solid. Can he join in addition to another character is the big question. He cannot. Okay, so between him and the Grandmaster, on foot that is, I'm not sure. The Grandmaster just makes the unit overall good. You can get a free stratagem use, you can ignore all modifiers, whereas the Brother Captain makes you more likely to wound something, so like you're fighting a vehicle, and he also gives you more attacks with sustained hits. Yeah, I guess like if you're not sure what to put in something, put a Grandmaster, and if you want like a kill unit, put in a Brother Captain. I think that works out. That's fine. That's okay. Yeah, you can join Terminators and Paladins. Brotherhood Champion was so bad in 9th edition. In 10th edition, he gives fight first. Okay, all of a sudden, he's pretty good. And then each time your model makes a melee attack that targets a character, you can reroll the hit roll and reroll the wound roll. I need to build a Brotherhood Champion. Hold the phone. I mean, it's against a character unit, but there's gonna be a ton of character units in 10th edition. And then you have fight first. What the hell? That's amazing. You can join Percutation Squad or Strike Squads, yeah. If you could join Interceptor Squads and give him the Teleporter pack, that would be dope. Brotherhood Champion looking pretty good, not gonna lie. Alright, the Brotherhood Librarian was famous for his Mortal Wound Bomb in 9th edition. Let's see if he can still do something along those lines. He has a combi weapon, we've seen that before. Then his psychic ranged weapon is Purge Soul. It's either one attack hitting on freeze, strength 6, AP 2, damage 3, or it's precision, but hazardous, and the same profile. So that's a little sniper character, deal some damage. Okay, I see you, that's fine, it's okay. 24-inch range, pretty good. And then his ability is Sansic Hood. We've seen this on the Primaris Librarian, or was it the Terminator Librarian? I forget. But feel no pain, 4+ against psychic attacks. And then he has Vortex of Doom. This was one of the Mortal Wounds abilities you used in 9th edition. In your shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to this Psyker and roll 1d6. On a 1, this Psyker's unit suffers d6 mortal wounds, but on a 2 to 5, the enemy unit suffers 2d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, the enemy suffers 2d6 mortal wounds. Okay, so the Mortal Wound Bomb is not completely gone anymore. That's pretty exciting, and it's within 18 now by default. Yeah, that's pretty solid. That's very good. Okay, wow, 2d6 mortal wounds. I mean, I'm just gonna roll 2 1s, so it's gonna suck, but for the people who can roll 6s, it's gonna be amazing. He can join Terminators and Paladins. Makes sense, he's in a Terminator armor. But honestly, depending on how pricey he is, just put him in Deep Strike, have him come in, do his psychic stuff, and then if he dies, okay, fair enough. Brotherhood Tech Marine. I'm gonna go ahead and guess he has the exact same abilities as the normal Tech Marine. Yep, looks like it. Oh, except for... Huh, that's weird. So the normal Tech Marine has the +1 to hit and heal ability. That's one ability, but it's two different abilities here, which is better because now you have the choice of giving something +1 to hit and heal another thing. That's weird. Not sure why they did that. The Brotherhood Chaplain didn't really see a lot of use in 9th edition. He could do some fun things with giving exploding 6s to wound that also dealt mortals in addition. There's some shenanigans you could do with him. His Words of Power ability is while this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the wound roll. That's the same as all the other chaplains. And then he has the Dread-Bearing Aura. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this model, subtract 1 from the leadership when taking a battle shock or leadership test. That's fine. That's okay. +1 to wound is honestly the most exciting part about this datasheet to me. I'm gonna guess you can join, yes, Terminators. Speaking of which, Terminators. Weapons, we already know. How many can they bring? They can take 1 heavy weapon for every 5 models. And you can replace 1 Stormbolter with the Ancient's Banner, and you can replace 1 Stormbolter with Nartesium. Nartesium is the Apothecary. So rather than have the Apothecary be its own character, it looks like you simply upgrade one of your Terminators to be the Apothecary. I'm okay with that, that's fine. Ability is Hammer Hand. You can re-roll... Oh no, wait, sorry. Hammer Hand used to be re-roll wound rolls, but now it is you have lethal hits if you make a charge. That's okay, that's fine. And the Apothecary can resurrect 1 destroyed model in the command phase for free, and the banner is +1 OC. Oh, they're OC too, look at that. So OC 3 with a banner? Okay, are they battle line? They're battle line. Okay, 5 Terminators with an Apothecary and a banner. That's OC 15 on an objective with a 2-up save, 4-up invuln T5, and a model comes back every turn. Yeah, okay, should have bought more Terminators. Again, I bought into Grey Knights because I was playing Custodes and I wanted a Psychic army. And now Psychic armies don't really exist anymore. So I'm not too geared up to play Grey Knights, but what have you seen so far looks cool. What I'm trying to say is I'm probably not going to invest more into my Grey Knights army. But if you have a Grey Knights army that's full of Terminators, then I am happy on your behalf. Because they look absolutely much better than they were in 9th edition. Alright, Strike Squads. A 2-up save, yeah, so it looks like 2-up save just army-wide. The rest looks like what we would expect. Weapons, we know. Their ability is, if you control an objective marker, you have sticky objectives. Got it. I really wish they just made sticky objectives a keyword. Could have been so much easier. And that's all they get. They don't get a they call this a psychic ability, right? So this is my issue. This is my issue with the whole, we're gonna compensate you for your loss of a psychic phase. But the way they compensate it is by giving us an ability we would probably still have even if we weren't a psychic army. I mean, intercessors have this ability, right? So, like, what's the deal? They do have Scout 6 now, so they pre-game move 6 inches. That's pretty good. But I am finding some issues in this whole, we got rid of the psychic phase, but you still got some new things. That might just be me. It's not a huge deal for me, but I still find it slightly weird. Alright, the Paladins. So what is different about the Paladins compared to the normal Terminators? These guys just have OC1, so they lose 1 OC. Weapon options are the same, but they're hitting on 2s in both shooting and melee. In 9th edition, they were just hitting on 2s in melee. Do they also have +1 attack? They have 4 attacks, and normal paladins have 4 attacks. Okay, so never mind. Then their ability each time an attack targets the strength, blah, blah, blah. So they have -1 to wound against strength 6 or higher, which is a good ability. Very good ability. They cannot get an Apothecary in their unit like normal Terminators, but they can get an Ancient for +1 OC. Is that it? For every 5 models, so they can take more heavy weapons? Okay, Paladins looking not amazing. I mean, hitting on 2s is good, but points dependent, I think I'd rather just take normal Terminators. Yeah, I lose my Stormbolter to revive a model, so I still have my melee weapon. That's fine. And I lose my Stormbolter to get a banner, still have a melee weapon. That's fine. And 1 in every 5 can get a heavy weapon instead of 2 in every 5. I don't know. If they're the same points cost, then there's a reason to take the Paladins for a more killy unit. But if Paladins are more expensive, then I think I'd just stick with normal Terminators. Okay, that's weird. Yeah, that's a bit weird. Purifiers, weapons, Purifying Flame. Yeah, it's also right. It's just 1 attack at 3, 4, 1, 1. But if Crow is leading the unit, it's now 2 attacks for every model. Remember that. It's every model has this. And then each time a model in this unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll if the unit is below its starting strength, and 1 to the wound roll if it's below half strength. So you can take 10 of these guys with Crow, put them in Deep Strike, and then you come in from Deep Strike. It's 18-inch range, so you can just stay your normal 9 inches away, or you can do the 3-inch and jump on an objective. And then you unleash 4 from Castellan Crow, and 20 from this Purifying Squad of 10 man. So 24 Purifying Flame shots, which is anti-infantry 2+, ignores cover, at AP 1, damage 1. Then after that, you hit them with the Storm Bolters, and if you came in from Deep Strike, you're within 12 inches, so you'll get 44 Storm Bolter shots on top of this, because 10 guys with 4 shots each, plus Castellan Crow. So 24 shots at 4-1-1, and then 44 shots at 4-0-1. I mean, that's a lot of DACA. That's like a whole lot of DACA. Oh boy, okay, yeah. No, that looks decent. On their own, however, not so sure. Points dependent, of course, but they're just, you know, Strike Marines, but without the Scout move, and then they have the 1 extra Psychic attack shooting ability. But 10 guys with Castellan Crow doing a 3-inch Deep Strike and just drowning the target in dice. That could probably work. Oh, wait. This is a Psychic shooting attack. Ah, wait, this is a fight phase only. Okay, never mind. But you can use Death from the War Bonder to get +1 to hit, so you're hitting on 2s. I was like, oh my god, can you just, like, are we about to unleash 24 anti-infantry 2+ shots with devastating wounds? But luckily, they saw that was probably going to be a little bit too good and limited it to just a fight phase. Okay, they saved it. I was like, hold the phone. Because if that was possible, well, then you were just probably looking at the best anti-infantry deleter unit in the game. Okay, yeah, Purifiers, I like the idea of Castellan Crow and 10 Purifiers just drowning a target in bullets. How effective it's gonna be? I mean, you have, what, 68 bullets? That is gonna do some damage into anything, just because sheer number of dice. But obviously not gonna do as much into tougher targets, but very good at dealing with some normal infantry. So yeah, fairly solid with Castellan Crow. On their own, I'm not convinced. Servitors, we've already seen these guys, and they have the, looks like they have the same abilities. Well, Brother Tech Marine models and Deep Strike and Teleport Soul ability, right? So you can pick them up alongside with the Tech Marine, that's fine. Other than that, they just basically have the same rules. The Grey Knight's Venerable Dreadnought is one of few options for anti-tank shooting, in form of the Twin Last Cannon, strength 12. His abilities is that within 6 inches, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, reroll hit rolls of 1 and reroll wound rolls of 1. Alright, that's pretty good. Oh wait, is that just the normal Venerable Dreadnought ability? I think this is also on the Space Marine Dreadnoughts, Venerable Dreadnoughts, right? Still, it's fine. He has a 2-up save. I'm not sure if normal Venerable Dreadnoughts have a 2-up save. But yeah, it looks to be mostly the same as it was before. The Interceptor Squad also have a 2-up save. When I was talking about the 2-up save earlier, I was about to say that maybe the Interceptors don't get a 2-up save because they have the Jetpack or Teleporter. But they do. Alright, cool. Still no Psychic power, but they have the Personal Teleporter's ability. In your shooting phase, after this unit has shot, it is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units. It can make a normal move up to 6 inches as if it were your movement phase. If it does, until the end of the turn, this unit is not eligible to declare a charge. Right, so you have move, shoot, move. But the second move is only 6 inches. Okay, I mean, they're still good. 12-inch movement, can go through walls because they're infantry. Yeah, Interceptors are still fine. Wait, funny enough. No, never mind. I thought of something and then immediately realized that not. Nope, never mind. Well, no, okay, anyways, I'm gonna say it. Turn 1, in theory, these guys are just slightly worse Strike Squad Marines, because Strike Squad Marines have the 6-inch pregame move. So they also move 12 on their first move. But they have sticky objectives, whereas these guys have, well, I mean, they can move 18, I suppose. Yeah, okay, yeah. Interceptors, still fine, nothing amazing. Purgation Squad, already seen these guys. They have a very cool ability where they can shoot indirect if something else can see their target. That's really funny. I had a funny idea about taking a squad of these guys with incinerators and just sit behind a wall and be like, hee, we're shooting flames through the wall. No, looks fine. They look usable now, points dependent. But before, they were just kind of like, why do I bother bringing these guys instead of Strike Marines? But now they at least have an ability that makes sense to take them. And then we have the normal Nemesis Dread Knight. His weapon skill and ballistic skill is the exact same as the Grand Master. I think the number of attacks is the same as well. Same toughness, same wounds. So I guess the only difference is going to be in the ability. This model is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn which advanced or fell back. Okay, yeah. And then we have the Land Raider. It's just like all the other Land Raiders. Land Raider Crusader. It's just like all the other Land Raider Crusaders. Land Raider Redeemer. Just like, well, you guessed it, all the other Land Raiders. And the Rhino. Also like all the other Rhinos. The Razorback is also like all the other Razorbacks. The Stormhawk Interceptor might be different, but honestly, I don't know. I've literally never seen one of these models in my life. Storm Talon Gunship, I don't know. Storm Raven Gunship, I don't know about. And that's it. That's the Grey Knights Index. Okay. So overall, I think it looks fine. As I mentioned briefly, I went on a small rant about it. I don't think that Psychic armies have been properly compensated for the loss of the Psychic phase. I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion. That's both Grey Knights and Thousand Sons. Eldar, we don't know yet. Their index is releasing tomorrow. But overall, I don't feel like my full army of Psychers feel like a full army of Psychers. It just feels like I have some extra shooting attacks on certain units. And then the abilities I get because I'm a Psychic faction are abilities I would have anyway. So I'm a bit mid on this. I think the stratagems are good. I think the enhancements are good. I think some of the upgrades or updates to units are good. Like, don't get me wrong. I think the index power-wise is completely fine. I just don't see how it's a Psychic army anymore, is my thing. Like, okay, you gave us a Psychic keyword, but that doesn't mean anything anymore. So in terms of the power of the index, I think it's fine. I still think you're going to see a lot of Dread Knights. You might see some more Terminators. But other than that, I think it's mostly the same. And then the flavor of the army is kind of mid for me. I do like the whole picking up and teleporting around. That is good, absolutely. And that is very much a Grey Knights thing. It's just not a very Psychic thing. It was something they did alongside being Psychic. But yeah, those are my opinions on Grey Knights. And that's gonna end my review of the Imperium datasheets. There's also Sisters, Guard, and Imperial Knights. But I'm not gonna make a video about that. Those are factions I don't know too much about. I've played against them, obviously, but I'm not too invested into them myself. Tomorrow, supposedly, is the Xenos Index, and I'm not really interested in Xenos other than Tyranids, and we've already taken a look at those. So, I'm not sure there's going to be a video tomorrow. If there is going to be, well, then I'll see you tomorrow. But for now, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. Join the Discord if you feel like it. And then, yeah, maybe I'll see you tomorrow, and maybe I won't. We'll find out.